Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel, the main event here. And today I want to go over the most recent regional championships, Orlando Regionals, which I believe is the biggest regional championship tournament to date with like over 800 participants, which was won by Wolfe with an 8-2 Swiss record. And then he obviously went undefeated in Top Cut. He did drop the one game in finals to Ashton. Shout out to Ashton because he played a major throughout that tournament as well. So I want to start off with Wolfe's winning team, which consisted of Screamtail, Mungus, Arcanine, Palafin without Rain, Fluttermane, and Gothitelle, which was mostly a Perish Trap team. I say mostly because that was the primary function of the team. He had, let's open it up and look together. He had Perish Song on the Screamtail, which he named and he had Perish Song on the Fluttermane, which means he had a fast Perish Song and a bulky Perish Song, which I think was actually a really good play. Now also Screamtail was booster energy speed, so it was also outspeeding mostly everything. So they actually were two fast Perish Songs, and technically both were bulky as well, because this had a lot of bulk and Terra Steel, and then this one had the Focus Sash, so it couldn't be knocked out easily. So that's the primary goal of the team. Then it had the Gothitelle, of course, which would basically trap things in. The only thing it couldn't trap in was obviously ghost types, and I want to say opposing Gothitelles. He did face an opposing Gothitelle, but he navigated that fine. And he also did face opposing ghost types, which he also navigated fine. Pardon me. But yeah, so let's go over the sets. Protect, Perish Song, Player of Disable. So we obviously know Perish Song is for Perish Trap stuff. Disable is actually a really good move on Screamtail, because it does shut down a lot of what the opponent wants to do. So what happens sometimes is Wolfe would like protect. He had protects on every single Pokemon, which makes sense, right? Perish Trap team. You'd have protect on his Pokemon. He could potentially double protect with something, and then after he sees what you go for, could then use the fast Screamtail to disable it. So now that move can't be used. So if you were to try to use that move again, you'd waste the turn. This is something more of a late game thing that I think he did, but you could use it in the early game too, just to force the opponent to switch. I think against Emilio Forbes, it was choice spec, so he protected and then disabled its move so that it had to struggle. Basically, couldn't do anything meaningful for like a few turns, which was awesome. I told you guys Screamtail would be winning tournaments, but I have to even admit I didn't think it would win like regionals this soon. I thought it would win more like grassroots, local, and then some big online tournaments, and then maybe like something big like regionals. But then Wolfe just brought it to regionals and basically dominated everything. Obviously Palafin, you guys know what Palafin does, but in this case it was a Protect, Wave Crash, Jet Punch, Close Combat set. It actually wasn't a very speedy Palafin because I don't have it on screen, but I did look at these spreads. It was a bulky Screamtail with a little bit of speed to activate the booster energy speed. The Palafin had a lot of bulk on it as well, which I think came in clutch because it was surviving stuff like wild charges. And then its bulk stays the same when it's not in hero mode, so you can leave it. He was actually leaving it on the field sometimes to like use Jet Punch to break focus sashes, and he would take a hit instead of just hard switching every turn on, which I thought was really smart. Arcanine, which you could argue is like the MVP of the team because it was surviving all types of hits. It's Terra Water, so it can survive the super effective hits. It would burn opponents that want to do big damage, pick up KOs because KOs are important to Perish Trap teams, especially if you can KO the first two Pokemon in the front, and then you would be able to pick up something. Then you'd be able to just lock it down and click Perish Song and win the game. This was a safety goggle set, which is good for Mungus because Mungus does give this team a little bit of trouble putting stuff to sleep. And then Will-O-Wisp, like I said, Will-O-Wisp and Intimidate, mitigating the damage. And also, I think the Arcanine's primary focus was opposing Goldango. He was running 252 attack on this thing because basically he needed to KO Goldangos, which makes sense, right? Because if you're running Perish Trap and then there's some Pokemon out there that's basically immune to the move, you have to have an answer for it. So his primary answer to that was basically Arcanine, especially when you have like a Mungus, which can't do anything to Goldango. Gothitelle can't do anything to it, can't even trap it in. Fluttermane can hit it, but if it Terra Steals, it can't touch it, and then it just gets blown up with Make It Rain. Palafin is a good option as it resists, so you can do that. And you could Terra Steel the Screamtail, but you also still can't do any damage to it. So Goldango puts a hard counter on this team, which is like Terra Water, Arcanine. So you can do your damage, and then if you need to Terra away from super effective moves, you actually don't lose your Steel resist. which I think is really smart. You don't want to lose your steel resistance because that's like one of Arcanine biggest strengths in this format is that it resists steel. So that's, and then in the finals, it actually did Oko and opposing Goldengo. So on Ashton Cox's team, which was really good. So here is the Flutter Mane, Focus Sash, Parashon, Moonblast, Shadow Ball. So no Dazzling Gleam on here, which makes sense, right? Because he's not looking to chip down damage on the opponent. He's looking to pick a KOs and click Parashon. So Moonblast and Shadow Ball is going to be his strongest moves. You can just potentially blow something up and then, you know, like I said, click Parashon. Terra Grass, I assume, is just for the Amoonguss stuff, so you can't get put to sleep or redirect it since you don't have any spread damage here. That's probably what the grass is for, because it doesn't actually resist anything that Flutterman is going to get hit with. The Amoonguss this was actually really cool. Amoonguss doesn't usually run Mental Herb, especially because most people go for like Terra Dark, because most of the taunters are prankster taunters. Wolfe went with Mental Herb and Terra Dark. One, because Terra Dark doesn't have any of those weaknesses that Amoonguss shares, like Psychic, so it's immune to Psychic, and then it just doesn't share like the flying weakness with all the Terra flying stuff running around, etc. And then it normally would resist fighting, so people are seldom clicking fighting moves into it, so Terra Dark is usually a safe one-turn thing. And then the Mental Herb stops it from being taunted, so you can't stop its Rage Powders and Spores. And then if you prankster taunted, it doesn't work. But if you're not prankster and you still taunted, it doesn't work. So you have to taunt it again. So he really wanted this Amoonguss to basically not get shut down by anything. And it did not get shut down by anything. And then last on the team is Gothitelle was Protect, Fake Out, Psychic. Now, on a lot of these teams, I've never seen Heal Plus on a Gothitelle on one of these kind of teams before, which I think was a good move. It could be common, but I'm just not familiar with it. So what would end up happening is, like, you know, he would click Parashon, Fake Out, or to shut you down, Protect, and then he would like click Heal Pulse into his Pokemon. There was one turn where he wave crashed into a Tyranitar switch-in, blew it up, took a ton of recoil, and then Heal Pulsed into his own Pokemon. So that was like an awesome turn where Heal Pulse really came into play. And like I said, the Palafin really is, I probably could argue, the second MVP on the team, because if you look at the team, it's not big on damage in matchups where Parashon may not be the winning play. So Palafin with Jet Punch, Wave Crash, and Close Combat hits everything it needs to hit. Hits the Steel types with Close Combat, hits fighting types, his dark types, not fighting types. And Wave Crash basically hits everything else, and Jet Punch picks up everything else as well. I'm pretty sure stuff like Flutter Mane, 2 Focus Sash Flutter Manes get blown up by 2 Jet Punches as it is. Close Combat hits opposing what's the thing called, Iron Bundles, hits the Iron Bundles for super effective. And I don't think Freeze Drives were KOing this Palafin, but Close Combats were KOing the Iron Bundles. So that's actually a really awesome team, and congrats to Wolfe for winning. So I want to take a look at the top 8 to see if there's any like trends. So there are 2 Dondozos here. Chuppa and Ashton actually played each other in top 4. Which I thought would be an advantage to Wolfe, because you can't switch out your Dondozo. So if he Perish Traps a Dondozo in, it's stuck. So I thought he would have a good chance in the finals. However, both of those teams that had Dondozo also had Goldengo. So that's also something that you have to like worry about. I was really worried about Chuppa across this team for him, because let's check this out. I want to see if it has Revival Blessing before I say anything. It does have Revival Blessing. So with Fake Out and Revival Blessing, I think it would have made it tough, because you can fake out the opposing, pick up some damage potentially. He probably would have protected, but Revival Blessing would have, you know, if you get perished on your opposing, even on your first 2 or your back 2 mon, you then can revive and then bring something back to life. So that plus like Goldengo would actually make it really tough, but he didn't end up playing Chuppa in the finals. He played Ashton. So I do wonder how that matchup would have played out. But Ashton Cox's team had the 3 Paradox Mons. He had Roaring Moon, which came in second, which is actually awesome, because I don't think like Roaring Moon is not something that commonly has been like dominating the events. Like if you look up top here, you see one that came in second place, but if you go in the top 8, there's not another Roaring Moon. If you go in the top 10, there's not another Roaring Moon, not one in top 12, not until you get to 15th, and then even after 15th they go to 19th. Like you don't see a lot of Roaring Moon. Even though it's a really good Pokemon, it's actually very hard to play, and it doesn't always just pick up like big knockouts all the time the same way Flutter Mane might, which is why Flutter Mane's a little bit ahead of it as far as like viability, but still did good here. I think it ran Tailwind and booster energy. So yeah, he would get off these fast tailwinds, which is really nice. And then acrobatics, terra flying, which is common, very common set, but it was good. The Tatsugiri with the very common Tatsugiri spread, Draco Meteor, Icy Wind, Muddy Water, Terra Blast. Terra Blast is actually a little bit interesting. I've never seen that on Tatsu. Terra Steel. That's actually really cool. I think that's really cool. This was a Resto Chesto set with the Dondozo, which also did put Wolfe in a couple weird situations, because even if you sport, Chestoberry would wake it up. And then if the Tatsugiri is in the Dondozo's mouth, Tatsugiri basically dodges the what's it called? The Perish Song. So you end up only knocking out the Dozo, but then the Tatsu would come out and it'll be Choice Scarf and be faster than all your Pokemon and probably Icy Wind you, Muddy Water you, Terra Blast you, or Draco Meteor. So it was a tough matchup for Wolfe, but he navigated it. Actually, no, before I go to Goldango, Assault Vest, Close Combat, Watch Out, Vultures, Fake Out, Terra Grass, very common set, even though most sets probably run Drain Punch. I do also prefer Close Combat, so shout out to Aston for that. Choice Specs, Goldango, very common set. Steel Beam is something that's a little bit different. I think that's a good call too. I like Steel Beam there, but Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball, Make It Rain. Some people opt for the Power Gem or like Dazzling Gleam, but I think Steel Beam to pick up like a real guaranteed knockout is a great choice, especially in like a 1v1 situation where you don't want to click Make It Rain. You just click Steel Beam and just go for it. And then Brute Bonnet, Spore, Quench, Polypuff, Protect. I think this is a great Pokemon. Obviously different than Amoonguss, but most of Amoonguss and Brute Bonnets, like if their Terra type makes them more level. Like Amoonguss is a little bit better because the poison type resists the fairy versus Brute Bonnet that's weak to it. But they're both probably gonna Terra in those really bad situations anyway. So having the extra offense from the Brute Bonnet is nice. A lot of people were running like Bullet Seed, I want to say, and picking up good KOs, breaking focus, all type of stuff, which was really smart. But this one just ran like Polypuff and Crunch for the damage, Polypuff for some damage, and also healing. Protect, Spore. So no Rage Powder on this, which is interesting. So that was Ashton's team. But yeah, so I wanted to look at the whole top 8. Oh yeah, so I was I don't know if you guys saw me tweeting this, but I was rooting for all the Great Tusk Tyranitar players because I know that's my jam. So there was Great Tusk Tyranitar in 3rd, James Evans, shout out to James. Also Tyler Webb, who came in 6th. They actually played each other in cut. So I was a little bit disappointed that they had to play each other, because I would have liked for them both to, get further with to push that Great Tusk Tyranitar agenda. I think they were both Terra Ground though. So the Life Orb, you guys know I like the Life Orb on that thing. Headlong Rush, Close Combat, Substitute, Protect. I think that's a good set. No Earthquake. I don't like Earthquake on this Pokemon at all. And how was Tyler running it? Tyler was also running Close Combat. Oh, he did have Earthquake, but he had Headlong Rush at least in Close Combat and Protect. And he was Terra Ground Life Orb. I like Life Orb. I think Life Orb is the best item for it. Let me go back to James. I want to see if he was running Terra Ground. Yeah, they both were running Terra Ground. So yeah, there was actually 1, 2, 3 in the top 8, which I thought was really cool. And then in the top 13, there was another 2. Way more Tusk than Roaring Moon. So Tusk might be overtaking Roaring Moon as that fourth best Paradox Pokemon behind Iron Hands, Iron Bundle, and Flutterbane. Then there was this as interesting because there was a few Talonflames. In the most recent regional before this one, there was a lot of Pelipper's. The Waterbird, but now the Firebird seems to be picking up a lot, probably because of its ability to pick up burns and also get up that priority tailwind. Priority tailwind is something that's lacking a little bit in this format because not a lot of people have been bringing stuff like Murkrow, so it has fallen off a bit. So people have been bringing Talonflame for that priority, and people who are not opting for priority speed control seem to be going for Trick Room speed control. That's what it looks like here, because you see there's a couple Indian Rouges in the top cut, one in the top 8, but one outside of it right there in the top 8. And I wonder if James Evans' Gothitelle has Trick Room on it. Let me go take a look. It does have Trick Room, yeah. Even though he's not a big heavy Trick Room team, it has like a moderate Trick Room mode. So yeah, so Trick Room or Tailwind seems to be the regular options that people have been going for speed control. I'm pretty sure every single bundle that's in top 8 has Icy Wind. There was 1, 2, 3 in the top 8. Yeah. So right now it does seem like even Fluttermane, right? Fluttermane is 1, 2. Yeah. So right now Fluttermane, Iron Bundle, Great Tusk seem to be the ones that are having had the most success this event at the top. But if you look here, right, there's still a lot of Iron Hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 in the top 11. 6, 7. So a lot of people. So it was the most used Pokemon at the event. Iron Hands. It was 50% usage. Also, basically 50% of the teams had it, 40% of the teams had flutter main, and 40% of the teams had Iron Bundle. I think something like 16% of the teams even had Great Tusk, which was actually surprising to me. But yeah, so Iron Hands had some success. It came in second. It didn't really have like as much success as like the other three that were really good, the Great Tusk, the Bundle, and the flutter main. But that's because when something like Iron Hands becomes as good as it was, most people just tend to prepare for it better. So what ends up happening is that those Pokemon sometimes do fall off a bit because people just are more prepared for it. They lean into it harder. As you can see, Dondozo is a little bit back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in like the top cut because people stop preparing for it as much. So people recognize that and started bringing it. So things do tend to ebb and flow. But as you can see, both of them still had a lot of success. They didn't win it, but like they're in top cuts and they're very, very heavily represented in these tournaments still because they're still good Pokemon. And then, like I said, they'll have their times where they're great. They'll have their times where they're good. I don't think they'll ever be like bad. Especially Iron Hands. Iron Hands is going to be good as long as Series 2 is the thing. So I wouldn't worry too much about that if you're an Iron Hands player. Look out for Great Tusk because I think it's going to pick up even more. Parashong's going to pick up for a little bit until people realize they're not good at actually playing it and then probably drop back off. But that's all I think I got for you guys today. Let me know if you guys watched the tournament, what you think of the tournament, any trends that you see coming, any Pokemon you see on the uprise, any Pokemon you see on the down slope. Thank you guys for being subscribed. Thank you guys for hitting the notification bell so you can always catch my videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.